Sorry about that. Hello, everyone, and welcome to IBSI's weekly forum on Israel, Africa, and Black America. I am Maria Washington, the executive assistant, and a lot of different titles behind the scenes and whatnot. We are just waiting for our fearless leader to join us. He's setting up Clubhouse and Instagram. As you know, we are usually streaming on all these different platforms, as you see now. So, wherever you are joining from, thank you for joining us. We're so excited to have you today. Um, I think I see him coming on now.
Yes, ma'am. Hello, everyone. Again, if you are on Instagram, you've already seen me trying to figure out what's going on. I have no idea what it was. I thought I'd done all that stuff before. Thank you, Miss Producer, Miss Maria, Producer Ma'am. Um, it's so great to be with you all on today. This is Monday, October the 23rd, I believe it is. This is the Institute for Black Solidarity with Israel, our forum on Israel, Africa, and Black America. I am Dumisani Washington, the CEO and founder of IBSI. You can go to ibsi.org and find out more about our organization. If you are joining us repeatedly, welcome back. If this is your first time, welcome. Glad to have you here. We have a lot to get into, and hopefully my voice will last as long as our hour does here together, and I won't spill my tea. That's funny. Spill the tea is also like a what's that? A euphemism for like tell all the business. We'll tell some business. But again, it was great to have you here. If you're on Instagram, hello, everyone. Great to have you. Share this. Let everybody know that we are live. If you are on Clubhouse, welcome, welcome, welcome. And if we're not public on Clubhouse, or if we're not seeing someone, give me that shout out and let me know so that everyone can see. We should be on Facebook. We should be on Twitter and on LinkedIn as well. So welcome, everyone. Great to have you. As you can probably hear, my voice is not 100%. I'm fine physically, other than my voice. There has been quite since the war, which we're going to go back into, this war in Israel, that is impacting so many different areas. And again, we are praying for all of those involved, our Israeli brothers and sisters who still, there are some 200, I believe, hostages still in Gaza. I did see a couple of quick things that popped up that some have been released, maybe a couple. I don't have all that detailed information at the moment. And then there has been an offensive. Israel has returned in attempting to deal with Hamas in Gaza. We're going to get into that as well. So just wanted to let you know, again, my voice is not all here. I'll try to use my microphone as strategically as possible. And hopefully you all can hear me okay. There's so much that's happening, you all, as it pertains to Israel. And as the Institute for Black Solidarity with Israel, we deal with Israel, Africa, Black, Jewish situations. We focus on solidarity, synergy, all of those things, building, pushing against anti-Semitism, Black exploitation, and racism, those types of things. And we see it as a legacy. It's one of the reasons why I guess my cup doesn't say legacy. This one doesn't say legacy builder, but this one does. I just remember. Legacy builder. I just thought about that. Legacy builder. There's a cup that says legacy builder. This is a mug that's actually, there's a t-shirt as well. For those of you, we are nonprofit. Those of you, for $10 or more just a month, you can become a legacy builder, get a couple of some of the swag from us as well, and you help us do the work that we do. So, but when I said legacy, I wasn't talking about that necessarily, although we do need your help. Legacy in that this has been the case for the Black American community our entire time in the United States. And the first Africa-Israel summit was when the Queen of Sheba visited Solomon in Jerusalem 3,000 years ago. We take those legacies seriously. And so we push back again on Jew hatred. We push back on the Black exploitation, the exploitation in the Black community, those that would seek to use our voice for the purpose of Israel hatred, the purpose of Jew hatred. And we are committed to telling the truth. And we got a few things we need to get into today. I'm going to start with Black Lives Matter. Not that I want to talk about Black Lives Matter, but I want to say again, we as an organization have told the whole truth about Black Lives Matter's anti-Semitism, Israel hatred, and exploitation of the Black community from darn near close to the beginning, right? Darn near close meaning Black Lives Matter was founded in 2013. By 2014, it was already on the whole free Palestine thing, which has nothing to do with Mike Brown, Laquan McDonald, Breonna Taylor, all that. Well, we did a video, our latest educational video, and shout out to Dr. Bob Shillman of the Shillman Foundation, who is that is the foundation that actually sponsors our videos. Because we get a grant from Dr. Bob, we are able to take our ideas and then put them on the video and get them out there, ideas, the educational content and everything. So the latest one that was released now about a week ago is entitled The Anti-Semitism of Black Lives Matter. Now, I'm not going to spend our time here because our hour goes by so fast. I'm not going to spend our time here showing you the video, but it's on all of our channels. Well, no, it's on our YouTube channel. I mean, there's an excerpt on our Instagram and Twitter channel. But if you want to see the video, many of you have seen it, we appreciate it, and share it, please, to get the information out. Go to IBSI, our YouTube channel, and I think it's IBSI Now, the YouTube channel, and you'll see there. Or I'm sorry, you can go to our website as well, ibsi.org, and check out on our YouTube. And you are on ibsi.org, click on videos, and then boom, you'll see that it's the top one that's listed. It goes in reverse chronological order, and we discuss that. It's about a 8-minute video, and we give the overview of this information. I see some folks logging on there. Shout out to Mr. David K there. I see him there in the clubhouse room. Shout out to you all. I see you all there on Instagram as well. Thank you all so much for joining us again, and share this link. Share it. We talk about Black Lives Matter not because that's our focus in terms of Black Lives Matter, but so that we can tell the truth. Black Lives Matter is one of those entities that has sought to exploit the Black community, hijack the Black voice for the purposes of Israel hatred and anti-Semitism. Now, some, especially after this horrific attack of October the 7th, in which Hamas infiltrated Israel, and we know now the death toll is close to 1,500, still over 200 Israelis who've been captured and kidnapped, and just all kinds of horrific things. I'm not going to recount all those horrific things now, but those of you already aware, again, I want all the gore and everything. And again, I don't want to be insensitive, especially for our Israeli brothers and sisters who are here, who are still living it. Let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, it's not over. Hamas infiltrators are still in parts of the country. Israel is strategically bombing certain sites. I'm going to get into that in a moment as well, in Gaza. And they're still living this nightmare. There are parents who aren't sure if their children are still alive, but know that those children were taken into Gaza. And I couldn't my wife and I have 6 children, 3 grandchildren. I couldn't imagine. And for those who say, what about the Palestinian children? You know what? Our organization has always advocated for the Palestinians in Gaza, meaning and the Judea and Samaria as well, because they live under an oppressive rule. They have since 2007, when Hamas took full control of Gaza. And we talked about some of that history last week. And the human rights abuses are a mile long. And people say, well, they voted for Hamas. Yes, they did. They did. Hamas was in a parliament and they overthrew Fatah and that type of thing. But yeah, and in certain polls, a majority of the Palestinians prefer Hamas. Again, and you take those polls with tongue in cheek, as I said on the Free Black Thought podcast. Shout out to Connie Morgan. If you haven't checked it out already, I did a podcast with Connie Morgan with Free Black Thought before. God bless you and your family for always speaking truth. Blessings to you, my friend David Bross, my friend out there in South Jersey, part of the Jewish Federation there, and out there holding it down. Appreciate you guys, my friend, really do. You have to understand that advocacy for the Palestinian people doesn't start with, oh, Israel's done this and Israel's done that. There's security issues and all of those things. But for the people who truly care, you need to know what life is like in Gaza that has nothing to do with Israel. What life is like under the Palestinian Authority, which has nothing to do with Israel. So this anyway. So the video, which I'm encouraging you to watch, I'm asking you, please take a look at that. It's called The Anti-Semitism of Black Lives Matter. It's on our YouTube channel. Later on this week or next week, the whole video will be on our other channels. It'll be on Instagram, a couple other things. But right now, it's exclusively on our YouTube channel. And again, some of you have seen it. Go ahead and shout and share that. And also, if you want to be on our emailing newsletter list, go to ibsi.org. Scroll all the way down to the bottom, and you'll see you can join the newsletter. Put your information on there for your email address so you can get some direct emails as well. Many people have come to the real, Jewish and non-Jewish, have come to the realization of Black Lives Matter after that horrific graphic. And Maria, this was not planned. If you have it, you can show. You don't have to. But then that one with the parachute, the paraglide thing. I mean, if you have that, it's cool. No, you don't have to. Black Lives Matter Chicago posted a graphic that was a picture of a paraglider, the ones who descended onto the festival in Israel and slaughtered those young people there and took some of them, ISIS style stuff. Black Lives Matter Chicago tweeted a picture, a graphic of that, and basically said, this is it, that is all. It started a firestorm. Folks on the left, folks on the right, Jewish, non-Jewish, for a quick moment there, folks were unified in how horrible that was. There you go. Thank you, ma'am. And then they took the graphic. Those of you can see us on video. If you're there on the audio, they're showing the graphic that's there. We've shared it. It's taken down. If you go on our website, or go on our Twitter or on our Instagram, you'll see it on there as well. They took it down, but even they took it down, they gave a disclaimer that, they took it down reluctantly because we stand with Palestine. We said they were glorying in the slaughter of innocents, elderly, Holocaust survivors, babies, burning their bodies, the whole thing. They were glorying in ISIS stuff, right? And a lot of people got upset from that, and rightly so. Oh, you know what, though? Can I get a little bit further? Some of the folks, particularly in the progressive camp, and yes, I'm calling progressives. I'm going to talk to you conservatives in a minute, right? Because, boy, this stuff's off the chain. Left and right, folks, the Jew hatred is just coming out all over the place, right? They knew that Black Lives Matter wasn't really rocking with the Black community. They saw the money stuff, right? But they was cool because it didn't offend them. But when some of them saw that last thing, that was a bridge too far. Here's the thing. You knew they were full of it before then. But some of you chose to look the other way until you got personally offended. When Institute for Black Solidarity with Israel does its advocacy, it does it in a way that honors both the Jewish and the Black community. We don't have to sacrifice our integrity or expect our Jewish brothers and sisters to sign on to something that they know is not right, and vice versa. They don't expect us to do either. So when somebody said worse than ISIS, yeah, you can make that case too, right? When that happened, when Hamas did this gruesome thing that just happened on October 7th, and people were glorying in it, right? This Nazi spirit, right? And these hundreds of thousands of demonstrations happening in different cities here, in both in the US and the UK. It's horrifying to many people that are going, wow, that level, yeah, man, it's like praising what the Nazis did and during the Holocaust, right? You're actually praising the slaughter of these innocent people. So the problem where Black Lives Matter is concerned, and let me say, Black Lives Matter National disavowed the tweet from Black Lives Matter Chicago. The problem with that is that Black Lives Matter, its leaders, had already engaged in a whole bunch of anti-Semitic stuff, which is contained in the video, right? And we call that out, said, no, it's too late now. You can't stoke all that Jew hatred, and then somebody over in Chicago goes a little bit too far to the point where folks are mad at you. Now you go act like, no, we cool. No, you're not cool, right? You did that. You did that, right? You are the ones who conflated how you going to deal with the deaths of Mike Brown or Laquan McDonald or Breonna Taylor or Ahmaud Arbery and make that about Israel. See, that's the other thing. You don't care about anybody's death. whether it's black folks in the United States or the Palestinians in Gaza or the Israelis. You're using that for money and notoriety. That's as bad as ISIS and for killing. What category do we put somebody in there who's profiting off of it? And we speak about it in the video. Check that out. We want you to see that and share it and educate others. For those of you who kept looking past it, you shouldn't have. All right. But I mean, make mistakes, let's move on. Right. But don't regress back into that thing. My friend Hussein Abu Bakr, Egyptian scholar, I think he's in the DC area. Shout out to you, Hussein. One of the things he was talking about on there, he said, well, maybe the liberals who see how toxic that thing is, they'll kind of take a look at that stuff. I said, okay, so let me go here. The ADL, Anti-Defamation League, about a week ago, put out a tweet about the demonstrations that are happening, I guess, as a result of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict and and then called out white supremacy. And then put pictures of different, thank you. After 1 week after Hamas brutal terror attacks in Israel, white supremacists continue to rail against Israel and the Jewish community, gathering in cities nationwide to promote that. First of all, white supremacists, bad, evil, all that stuff. But those thousands and thousands of people who went to the Capitol building, on these college campuses, marching thousands deep in places like Chicago and New York, excuse me, ADL, those are not white supremacists. They're not the far right. These are progressives, very self-righteous, social justice-y progressives who see hatred for Israel and the veneration of Hamas as some sort of good thing. Please be real. That obfuscation is so dangerous. All due respect to you, Jonathan Greenblatt, so dangerous. And then after that, Representative Richie Torres, a progressive lawmaker from New York, if you have that graphic you put on there, Maria, there was a event, and I don't know what date it was supposed to be. I don't see the date. It's sponsored by the Bronx Solidarity with Palestine. And on the graphic, for those you can't see, it's a picture of Representative Torres, and it says, wanted for genocide. They have Richie Torres's picture and they have the big letters wanted and for genocide in this volatile thing and he tweeted it out himself. And then his next tweet was that it puts his life in danger. You dang Skippy, it does. ADL, those are not white supremacists. Please be honest with, please stop playing games. This is real. This is real. People are dying. White supremacists, call out the white supremacists when it's white supremacists. Don't talk about these demonstrations that are thousands and thousands of deep and to say that's very dangerous, ladies and gentlemen. Very dangerous. What's happening here, where Israel is concerned, is a global issue because terrorism is a global issue. That's why they call it global terrorism. And CAIR, the Council on Arab-Islamic Relations, which was an unindicted co-conspirator in the Holy Land trial, meaning that it was proven in court that it had a connection to Hamas. Ladies and gentlemen, this is for all the marbles. Israel's fight is the free world's fight. And not being honest about what's going on only makes things that much more dangerous. And there are too many people who call themselves leaders who are not recognizing the immediacy of this time. So both the Antisemitism of Black Lives Matter video, and then also this, as I share with you, this other the progressive part of it in terms of what's actually going on. These people who think that they are doing some sort of social justice service by siding with Hamas, calling for a ceasefire, but with no regard for the Israeli children and women who are still being held, and men held captive there in Gaza. It's as if we're not going to even think about them anymore, talk about them anymore. I had the honor yesterday of preaching in Sunday service at City Church in North Lake, which is an area of Charlotte, which is pastored by Dr. Michael Stevens and Pastor Sharon Stevens, his wife. They were out of town. He called me about a week ago and said, "Hey, could you stand in for me?" I was more than honored to do it, and we preached there. And yesterday, which is part of the reason why my voice is gone. So shout out to Pastor Dr. Michael. And we came out of the text of the book of Acts in the New Testament, chapter 10. And without getting to the whole sermon, we talked about how the first Gentile to become a part of what is a holy Jewish movement, followers of Jesus, was a man by the name of Cornelius, who was kindly disposed to the Jews. One of the criteria that God had was that the first Gentile to be saved and filled with the Holy Spirit was a good man who loved the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and had a really good reputation with the Jewish people and the Jewish nation. It actually says that in the text, Acts chapter 10. In that, we began to take a time capsule, go back to 1967, and talked about Dr. King. And I wanted to touch on something here, because in that sermon, and we'll put a link to the sermon when we post it up, and you guys can check it out, everything, check out the worship service and everything. 1967, Dr. King and the Southern Christian Leadership Conference attended a conference on what was called New Politics or something like that in Chicago, Illinois, right? This story that I'm relating is in my book, Zionism in the Black Church, Why Standing with Israel Will Be a Defining Issue for Christians of Color in the 21st Century. You can go to Umdeni Press, and they can put that link on there. And I'm sure they can drop it in the chat there as well, umdenipress.com. And you can check out, there is the print version. There's the digital version for your Kindles and everything. And then there's also the audio book as well, right? So Dr. King, July 1967. July 1967, Dr. King and some of his colleagues from the Southern Christian Leadership Conference attend this conference on new politics in Chicago. Right? At the conference, now, July 1967, those of you who know your Israel history, was about a month after Israel's Six-Day War, June 1967, a war in which it faced down the same Arab armies of Egypt, Jordan, Syria, Lebanon, and Iraq. The Soviet Union was kind of messing around in there as well. We talked about that later on, especially the Yom Kippur War. Israel miraculously won that war, offered peace to the Arab League. They refused with a cartoon, no peace with Israel and everything, and called Israel settler colonizers and occupiers, right? So in other words, Israel fought a defensive war, had the audacity to win. I'm saying that sarcastically. And the Arabs that warred against Israel got mad and cried foul and said Israel stole land. That's how long this game has been played. At the conference in Chicago, there was a resolution drafted that stood with the Arabs against Israel, condemning Israel and saying nothing about the fact that it was the Arabs who were about to attack 5 nations deep against Israel, right? That was 56 years ago. They went to this conference, meaning they were some far leftists, some communists, right? This is part of what it actually was. And some the ones who were representing the Arab interest. They commandeered the conference. This is long before you even get to the Durban conference of 2001. And with all these black folks in the conference, produced a document that says we stand with the Arabs against Israel. In other words, it was the 1967 version of Free Palestine. Yes, it was. And not only was that happening, it was focused on the black community. These leaders from the Arab world, or those who were actually representing them, wanted so much for Dr. King and these other black leaders to be seen as standing against Israel over a half a century ago. As I tell young people, that's how old this game is. That's why when Black influencers, these young men and women, get up and they start tweeting stuff, they don't know what they're talking about. They start making speeches and lectures, and they don't know what they're talking about. What I mean by that, the unqualified, as Dr. King used that term, the unqualified endorsement of Hamas and a complete condemnation of Israel. This has been going on for 50 plus years, ladies and gentlemen. Dr. King, however, after this happened at the conference, the newspapers got the story. And apparently the headline had something to do with Dr. King and the SCLC condemning Israel. It was fake news from 1967. I'm going to show you what happened. Once that headline and article went out and they read the resolution, completely condemned the Israelis, completely venerated the Arabs, it didn't even tell you what was really going on. Rabbi Maurice Eisenroth of the Hebrew congregations that were based in New York, and back in the day, many Jewish synagogues were called Hebrew synagogues. My Jewish brothers and sisters, you can attest to that, right? They're called. He was over the Union of Hebrew Congregations, something like that. All the receipts are in the book. It's in the book. The whole story's in the book, right? I'm giving you some, overview. And the letter to Dr. King was saying, "Hey, Dr. King, what happened? I thought you recognized what was going on, and holla at your boy." He didn't say that. I'm just going to make it right. And so Dr. King got the letter in July. That July, he responded to the letter in September because he was traveling. He even said that in the in his letter, right? And it was it's snail mail, right? There was no email, there was no Instagram messaging, none of that stuff. You had to actually send the letter and by the mail, right? And it went from New York to Atlanta, and then he sent it back to Atlanta. And we have a copy of all these letters. They're from the Dr. King, the MLK archives. We've actually seen them from years ago, and I think we put the copies of them in the book. Yep. You know what Dr. King said? I'm glad you asked me that. He told the rabbi that he was not at that conference when the resolutions were drawn up. He said he was there at the beginning opening session. He left his colleagues there and went on to another event that he had to do. He said to the rabbi, and I quote this in the book, "Had I been there, I would have made it clear that I would not have agreed to a resolution that condemned Israel and gave an unqualified endorsement to the Arab power." He said that himself. He said, "I made this clear to the paper," whoever it was that reported it. He said, "but a retraction or a correction seldom gets the attention that the hype," basically he didn't use the word hype, headline gets. Again, he was calling out fake news. He said, "I contacted the journalist and told him, hey, bruh, no, that's not, here's what actually happened." And when they actually printed the correction, it's probably on page 6, 7, or 8. In other words, the media didn't give the same emphasis on the correct position of Dr. King in the SCLC, but they gave a lot of hype to the fake one. Can someone say Al Jazeera? New York Times. Did New York Times just report that Israel bombed a church in Gaza? I'm coming to that in a second. And I put that on my wall. Lo and behold, it didn't. It hit something near Gaza because of the fake news stuff and the manipulation and the attempted exploitation of Black voices has been going on for a very long time. And the young bucks who jump into this, who don't really understand the history. So one of the reasons why I do that retrospective in the book is to connect it to today. Because the people who were telling these lies back then didn't care about peace, just like the people who are lying now. Now, some people are trafficking in the disinformation about what's really going on between Israel and Gaza, Israel and Hamas, because they don't know. And they just retweet. I told you the biggest difference between 56 years ago and now are two. Like I said, number one, America is much dumber now. I'm not trying to be mean. Our education system, literacy rates and everything, just all the stats are there, right? I mean, our kids can't read. I'm not talking about Black. I'm just about Black, white, Hispanic. You just Google it, right? Find out what's actually going on. That's number one. America's dumber. Number two, there's TikTok. Right? So you have the disinformation that's not just in a printed newspaper, but it goes out, boom, instantly. And a video seen by millions of people, like, oh, my bad. My BBC talked about what Israel did. Then about a week later, oh, yeah, well, you're wrong. Yeah, man, it's too late now. Y'all been doing that for years, though, right? For years. You keep making a mistake. I'm going to think it's intentional because it is. I shared that story again because if you're going to understand where we are, you have to understand how we got here. Then anti-Zionism within any of the leadership of the Black community was a very marginal thing. It grew as anti-Zionism became more and more of a leftist progressive ideal. And for those you about to get your panties in a bunch, I'm not saying that the right doesn't have anti-Semitism. It completely does. Give me a second. I'm saying that the institutional version, when those people in Harvard signed off on Hamas, Stanford, I said this before. You can get mad at me if you want. I'm going to tell you the truth. I love you that much. The right doesn't control the colleges and universities. The right doesn't control our public school system, in which in places like California, children are learning both in high school and in college that Israel's an apartheid state. Lie. That Israel's committing genocide against Palestinians. The same lies that are being told in the media, these kids are being force-fed in these that's what I'm saying. That's what the danger of the progressive one is, that it controls so many of the levers, media, education, social media in our nation, that stuff is just going like wildfire. And the lack of honesty around it is why you know what? Be real. I've said this before. I'm going to say it again. The reason why things will get worse before they get better, propaganda wise, and I'm trying to be real with you, Pastor me something. Do me going to be real with you as much as you can, right? I'll be honest with you. It'll get worse before it gets better because there's still too much denial going on. When things are shown, here are the receipts about what progressive education actually looks like. Well, what about the rights? You're not even listening to me. If you respond to these kids on these college campuses almost calling for blood, there's a video that went viral about a week ago. These Jewish young ladies were coming up to their president, whoever that was, this official, and they had this huge up, free Palestine, Hamas. This is right after all these Israelis been slaughtered. These Jewish girls are crying, like going, we feel really unsafe. Man, this is really good. Well, could you please do something where they felt you know what? It's almost like a lynch mob and you on the menu. Like a black man walking by a big old Klan rally in the burning cross. Man, how are you supposed to feel? Right? What's going on? Those are not conservatives. Those are not the right. And the institution is controlled. And here's the thing, because there's so much denial. Well, what about David Duke? Are you kidding me right now? Well, what about Nick Fuente? Absolutely. You know, they're full of it, right? Just as they're mean, evil, nasty anti-Semites. Nick Fuente says not good. Ooh, man, y'all got to be real, because there's too many people not being honest about what's going on. Even after all this mayhem and death, that's how you know. See, if you're thinking that I'm just being pessimistic, I'm gonna just tell you how you could. I'm preaching now. You have to help me because I'm a preacher at heart. All the parents in the house say, "Man, when you correct your child's misbehavior and he or she refuses to acknowledge it and refuses to apologize, they are letting you know that they're going to do it again." If parents, young parents, if you didn't know nothing, let me help you. That's why he did it. That's why he did it again. He didn't apologize to his little sister. He didn't acknowledge what actually happened. The reason why he or she didn't acknowledge it is because in their heart, they're going to do it again. But they smiled at me, Pastor Dumisani, and they told me they love you. They might love you, right? But if they did not acknowledge, I'm talking about they're old enough, if they did not acknowledge the infraction, if they did not acknowledge what actually happened, mommy, I'm sorry for X, right? Daddy, I'm sorry. If they didn't acknowledge it, it's a surefire way of you knowing they're going to do it again. If I see the progressive Jew hatred in our streets, in our campuses, and I still want to talk about Donald Trump, I'm letting you know that I'm not acknowledging what's really happening. And guess what? It's going to get worse and worse and worse. That's where we are. Black Lives Matter isn't really anti-Semitic. They literally took Black Lives Matter LA, went through the Fairfax area of LA, defaced and vandalized 5 synagogues, 3 yeshivas, marched through the streets talking about uh, F the cops and kill the Jews. Yes, I think Black Lives Matter has a problem with Jewish people. It's they. Oh boy. Well, I'm sure they're okay. All right, keep giving them money if you want to. Keep right. We warned you in 2014, 15, 16, and it got worse and worse and worse. The war of the Gaza war in 2021, when Hamas fired, so was that some 4,000 rockets at Israel? Black Lives Matter then posted in the midst of all that bloodshed and bomb. They tweeted then, we stand with Palestine, and we telling folks. So what they just did when this just happened, they've been doing that for longer. You know what? They've been honest about it. Free Palestine. They ain't tripping on what Gaza do, whatever. They justify. Resistance is justified when people are occupied. That stupid stuff somehow, because it rhymes, it's supposed to mean something, right? Yeah. All right. So these babies got killed. They're not tripping. Yes. That's where we are. Okay. Someone said, Pamela said, well said, how is it that you get it and these supposed representatives of the Jewish people are so blind to the truth? You and your group are a blessing for Israel. Thank you for your support. Please keep up the good fight. Well, Pamela, thank you so much. And thank you for being in ibsi.org. Y'all check out what we're doing on there as well, ibsi.org. And the answer to your question, Pamela, is actually simple. The reason why the other people don't see, my wife taught me these terms. There's illiterate and unliterate. Illiterate means you can't read. Unliterate means your head is so thick that even though you can read the words, you're not learning nothing. So those people who see it and they don't see it, those are the unliterate ones. All the evidence is there, all the receipts are there, but they refuse to see it, and that's unfortunately where we are right now. Pastor Hall said, I have said it before, and I will continue to say it. BLM is a distraction for destruction. Oh, come on now. Somebody preaching up in here. You can tell the preachers and how BLM is a distraction for destruction. I'm about to write that one down. Come on, Pastor Hall. See, y'all gonna make this a church service up in here. It's a distraction for destruction. I told y'all already, I'm not gonna go back and do Oakland, places like Oakland, like Baltimore, that are hurting, that are hemorrhaging. Babies are dying because of that defund the police nonsense, right? And that coming against everything, not that hasn't built anything. And these people are bleeding in the streets and nobody cares anymore, right? They use them to pimp them for money and for Jew hatred, and they don't move on to the next thing. Oh boy, yes, see, my voice is, I'm gonna try to get it back because I have another meeting tomorrow. So this is, and I'm not done. Let me do this part. Can I do this part first? Yeah. So I told you I'm doing the Dave Chapelle part, but I'm gonna do this other part first. Back up. So then conservatives, unless something has changed, somebody can let me know. Charlie Kirk, Candace Owens, a couple other ones that I saw, tweeted that Israel bombed a Greek church in Gaza. Charlie Kirk even said, these are the conservatives, right? I told you left and right, right? Candace Owens, we addressed her a little bit before in the whole Kanye West thing, not just the Kanye with the anti-Jew stuff, but when Kanye said that he was kicked out of Chase Manhattan Bank, JP Morgan Chase, he inferred that it was because of his Jewish, anti-Jewish stuff. And then Candace kind of co-signed on that. And the receipts that we have, article, you can go on our Substack, ibsi.org, click on Africa Israel Weekly. And we made an official statement about Kanye last year. When that happened, it doesn't seem to be true. And I keep saying scenes because we're trying to be careful about how we're going to say this. He talked about this whole thing about the bank thing, and it seemed as though that he had already said publicly that he was leaving that bank. He wanted, because they disrespected him, right? So he did 2 different stories. Candace kind of co-signed on that other story, and our organization put out an actual Substack, an article, and asking clarification publicly. Okay, so this was said, but here what seems to be what actually happened, what's going on. They just left it out there, the Jews. They just blamed it on the Jews. There doesn't seem to be any evidence for that, right? So we're already not cool with that, right? Because that's like, if you go say something, you have some receipts, right? You got some receipts. Don't seem to have no receipts, then we're trying to find out what's actually going on, right? So they tweet this picture, Candace, and well, Candace retweeted what Charlie Kirk said, and all on this church, and this person died, said, that's a serious charge, right? Come to find out, from what we did, just a little quick investigation, the church is completely fine. You'll look at the link that we have there on our Twitter, right? It's actually, there's a picture of the church. There was either a weapons cache or something that was nearby. The IDF hit that. There doesn't seem to have been any casualties. Once again, the IDF goes through unbelievable measures. Everyone takes unbelievable measures to minimize, if not wholly eliminate, civilian casualties. Right? After the whole October the 7th massacre, the IDF let the Gaza residents know, and they've done this many times before. Y'all need to leave. The IDF has actually escorted Gazans to safer places because they're going to begin to hit some of the targets where Hamas is. And Hamas intentionally puts weapons and other military assets near churches and schools and mosques and daycare centers, and they do that purposefully, ladies and gentlemen, to maximize civilian casualties. And Israel has to do these surgical strikes. Oh, Pastor Messiah, you just care about the Jews. I'm talking about the truth. Who cares about the truth? Right. So not only are they going through all these different changes, you see that thing on the screen there. David Eli put it up there. That picture. Here's the picture of here's the very church they said was destroyed. The very next day is completely fine. Right. So I said this on Twitter. I'm going to say this now. Herein lies. I'll come back to the Dave Chapelle thing in a second. Yeah. Look at my time. Herein lies Israel's dilemma. See, Hamas doesn't care. Hamas kills its own people. They will intentionally fire rockets at their own people so they can blame it on Israel. That happened in 2021, May 2021. Of the 4,000 rockets that were fired, a certain percentage of them hit Gaza, right? And Hamas ain't tripping, right? Because they know Yasser Arafat taught them back in the day that dead Palestinian children are good for their media, right? I'm not saying that, but Yasser Arafat was saying when that happens, we'll just tell the world that Israel did it. Whether it's true or not, doesn't make any difference, right? And the world's going to eat it up. Okay? In order for Israel to attack and hopefully eradicate Hamas, they have to go into Gaza, where Hamas is embedded with the civilian population, or B, in underground bunkers, deep underground, where they're completely safe from the standard missiles that would destroy structures on the surface. In order, all this has been written about and everything, in order for Israel to send the type of missiles that would hit hard enough to disrupt and destroy those tunnels, apparently they have a contracted relationship with the United States to purchase those missiles. And the Biden administration is unwilling, at least up to this point, to sell those missiles if they're going to go and attack Gaza. Are you following me here? They say, the Biden administration, that they're concerned about the Gazan civilians. Problem is, when Hamas is killing Gazan civilians, the Biden administration and other administrations before it ain't got nothing to say. Hamas's human rights violations, cool. But if Israel retaliates and something happens, then and yes, the Israelis hold themselves to a high standard. That they just do, right? And they're trying to avoid. They're not trying to just kill everybody in Gaza. They're trying to kill Hamas. But if Hamas is surrounded by civilians, now Israel has to try to figure out ways, and it's been doing it for a while. How do I have to go in? But if they just go in, then Hamas is underground and they come out. Here is the dilemma, right? And when something tragically does happen, because if you understand what I'm explaining to you, if Israel's going through everything it can to avoid civilian casualties, it's impossible to avoid them 100%, people. It is impossible. So when inevitably someone is killed who's Palestinian, who wasn't a militant, who wasn't a terrorist, it goes to the new, hey, this Israel sent this and they shot over here and this person got killed, and then it becomes Israel's trying to kill Palestinians. Israel's just killing that if you can follow what I'm saying, that's not the real story. It's the fact that the civilians are embedded and they are trying to avoid them. So when I told you the progressives out there tripping, Free Palestine. They deep all up on the street. And now you got some conservative influencers. Israel needs to care about Christians. Are y'all kidding me right now? Are you kidding me right now? Right? I wasn't going to say anything, but now I'm going to say something. Are you serious, dude? I did a quick little search and there's a church right there. So you're going to use your conservative platform with millions of people to tell people that Israel, okay, so the left is saying that Israel is killing Palestinians, and now the right go talk about Israel killing Christians. I can't with y'all, right? So if you're Israel, you see what I'm talking about? You're going, okay, we, right. So that's Israel. And I'm not doing a sad song, right? The Israelis, they're going to handle their business, right? But at least I'm trying to tell you the truth. Here's what's actually happening. I mentioned her before. I'm going to say this again. Caroline Glick, the Caroline Glick Show, her last several podcasts, obviously. Go ahead and check it out on YouTube. She breaks it out. I'm not even trying to touch some more what she touches because it's some very deep stuff. I mean, not that I understand what she's saying, but that's not the purview of this organization. But you should probably go check that out. Caroline Glick. Shout out to Caroline. And then I heard that Dave Chapelle had a event out in Boston in which he talked about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Now, he doesn't allow phones in his events. He actually locks them up. So no one was able to get, that whole TMV thing, on TMZ thing or whatever. So I actually put a link, Comedy Hype News. I follow them. Y'all know Comedy Hype News is a black channel, and they'll talk about different cultural things and stuff like that. And they actually covered it. And apparently Dave Chapelle, what was said, he condemned Hamas's slaughter of the Israelis, but then kind of justified, then basically said that Israel's basically war crimes and is killing, the same thing I was saying before, Israel's just killing Palestinian people, right? So, and that's true. I give him props for at least condemning Hamas. I mean, he went further than a whole bunch of folks on the left have even gone, hey, haven't condemned Hamas. Hamas is completely justified. But so at least Chapelle, according to the report, did condemn Hamas, but then he turns around and accuses Israel of, intentionally killing civilians and all this other kind of rights. Right? Wrong. Apparently he got heckled. Some people told him, F you, Dave Chapelle. So he started going off on them. And apparently, as the story goes, a couple of the stories, my wife gave me another link. Some of the Jewish people that were there came out to the lobby of the thing, and they were talking about how unsafe, because it kind of turned into this whole Free Palestine rally in there. And the folks came out. They were concerned. They said concerned for their safety. So for those of you who've never been at a Students for Justice in Palestine rally, if you've never been at a Free Palestine, remember I told you Rishi Torres, they put his face on the flyer saying Bronx solidarity with Palestine. They're accusing him of genocide. If you've never been there before, yep, thank you, Maria. Put that man's picture. Ooh, boy. Can I be real? Can I the progressive thing? I'm going to be really, really real. If it was a white supremacist organization that took a picture of a gay, black, Latino man, a representative, and put wanted for genocide next to the FBI would have raided them 2 minutes after you saw the graphic. But it's progressives that's coming for Richie Torres. So you see Biden didn't say nothing about it. That's how, man, I'm going back there. Anyway, those rallies, ladies and gentlemen, become blood curdling. I've been to many of them on campuses and some on the streets. I've seen them, right? There's some people there just passionate, right? I'm advocating for the Palestinian people. And then, they're calling for blood. There's a video that went viral in London. These Arab men going through the streets looking for Jews to lynch. This is no joke. This is very serious. And where we're going to, ladies and gentlemen, if cooler heads don't prevail, I mean cooler heads, I'm talking about our leaders, our government officials, getting up and really dealing with what's happening, providing better security for what's happening, right? And I'm not for the over-policing type of thing. And you know what I mean by that? I'm talking about how some of these progressive blue cities are trying to implement all kind of stuff like, what's that? Lethally armed robots, like in San Francisco. Man, I'm not trying to, but I'm saying there needs to be a more responsible response to this, a more grounded, because many of what's happening in these demonstrations, these people are calling for Jewish blood. During the May 2021 Gaza war I told you about before, there were Jews who were getting beat up in LA. I met some of them in New York, in different parts of the cities. Why? Because these free Palestine rallies became kill the Jew rallies. This is happening in the United States of America right now. So the people, and I'm not saying that was Dave Chappelle's intention. I don't, he's done the Palestine thing before. We already talked about that before. David's very, he does a pro-Palestine thing, right? Which is his prerogative, right? Apparently in this event, there were Jewish people that were there that felt they came out and we're talking about that, man, it got deep up in there, right? So this is happening. This and it's not being taken seriously. It is being politicized. It is being dismissed because that type of vitriol is coming from the left. That seems to be okay. It's not. So again, the Institute for Black Solidarity with Israel will not only just not stand there or sit there and not raise our voices, whether the Jew hatred and the Israel hatred come from the left or the right, we'll continue to write. We'll continue to put all our videos, education as well, and then do it advocating in the communities as well, right? Meaning we're doing our live appearances when we're actually having these conversations, teaching, training. Shout out to Pastor Melva out there in Milwaukee. We've been part of that cohort for the last 7 of 8 weeks, teaching these young ministers, some young, I say young is a habit of mine, but these ministers in this particular, we're talking about Zionism in the Black church. We're talking about this history. What we find is that as people are open and educated about what's going on, then they're not easily duped by all the hype and everything in the media. The education is the key, ladies and gentlemen. The prophet said, my people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. When there's knowledge isn't there, all kind of bad stuff jumps off. And this is very, very important. Much of this rabid Jew hatred is driven by people who don't know what they're talking about, but they're listening to whatever TikTok's telling them and whatever their favorite influencer, and it's dangerous. There has to be the truth. IPSI is committed to that. We're committed to actually telling the truth, giving the right information, as well as taking our IPSI ambassadors. We had the honor of taking them out to South Africa and then taking them to Israel in June. Shout out to all of you all. You all are beautiful. You all amazing. Looking forward to our gathering on next year in the spring. And so we want to continue to do that. You can help us do that by going to ibsi.org, and whatever donations you give, we're really grateful for them. We are a nonprofit. You help us do what we do. One last thing I need to share with you. In the whole context of live events, I will be in Boston, God say the same, this Sunday, right? David, I'll be out there in Brooklyn on Saturday. I'll be helping my daughter and son-in-law going to their new place. So, but they're doing the move, I guess, on Sunday. We're going to help them with the baby stuff or whatever like that. I'm going to shout out to them. So I can shoot you a text, my friend. We'll hook up for a quick minute or something, see where you are, and, get touch base or something like that. Love to the family. I'm going to Boston at the Christians and Jews United for Israel event in Boston, 4:30 p.m. I have the honor of being awarded the Genesis Award from Christians and Jews United for Israel, and I'll be the keynote speaker, which is why I gotta try to have some sort of voice at the end of the week. So all my Boston peeps out there, if you want to be a part of it, we love to see you. You do have to purchase a ticket. We did put the link. It's not on our event page, but it is. Where's the link? It's probably on our Maria, if you have the flyer, you may already have it. I'm gonna look at the wrong thing. Thank you, ma'am. That's right. So celebrate with us. You'll see that flyer there. Those of you all see in the screen. You can go to CJUI.org, Christians and Jews United for Israel, CJUI.org/events. And then you can purchase a ticket and join us there again this Sunday, October the 29th, 4:30 p.m. is the event. My son, Joshua David Washington, will also be. He is the executive director of IBSI and is also a professional musician, recording artist. He'll be doing some music there as well. So we love to see you. My lovely wife is going to be with us. We love to have you all join us there in the Boston area. If you're not in the Boston area and you got friends and family, shoot them that link and let them know, hey, IPSI is going to be there. I will have copies of my book, Zionism in the Black Church. We'll be signing them for those who purchase them. Then again, the book also helps us. The purchase of the book helps us do the work that we do here at the Institute for Black Solidarity with Israel. So, and then again, we'll put the link up there about the sermon that we had as well. Someone said, Jaime Frank, or Jamie, I'm something wrong. Yes, thank you for all question. when people bring up Nakba, what response does IBSI have? Thank you. Oh, the Nakba event. I think he means the Nakba event. So the Nakba, which is the Arabic word for catastrophe, May the 4th, 1948 is when Israel became a nation for the first time again in almost 2,000 years. And the Arab powers called it the Nakba, the catastrophe. And to your answer to your question, Jamie or Jaime, I hope I'm saying it the right way. I apologize. We teach people, and I'll talk about this in my book, Zionism in the Black Church. I actually quote an Arab scholar when I talk about the Nakba, right? This is not even my words, but basically that it's called the Nakba because it's called catastrophe. The Arab powers called it a catastrophe because they were not able to defeat Israel. So we tell the people the truth, that there's a partition by the United Nations that was supposed to give an Arab and a Jewish side of British Mandate Palestine, and that the Arab powers decided that was completely unacceptable and that there was not going to be a Jewish state, and what was formerly Arab controlled or Muslim controlled, particularly at the Ottoman Empire, they were not going to give that up. And that's where the war came from. So we tell them that Nakba is what actually the enemies of Israel called, who did not want peace. So the fact that Rashida Tlaib, the representative out of Michigan, celebrated the first Nakba Day at the Senate because Bernie Sanders allowed her to, because it was shut down in the House by then Speaker of the House, Kevin McCarthy. But Bernie Sanders said, yeah, you can do it here. The danger is that Nakba, in that sense, is disinformation, because it was not. Nakba feeds into the story that these Jews just came from Europe with some guns and started taking land from Arabs. That's a lie, but it's a lie that's been told for decades and decades. Nakba emphasizes that false narrative. That's what we tell people about what the Nakba is. I hope I answered that question. Yes, someone said, Nakba, we tried to kill you, we failed, we are the victims. Pretty much, right? And all the way till now, because who's paying for that disinformation the most, other than these Israelis who are suffering, especially after this slaughter, this brutal slaughter? The Palestinian people of Gaza, people in the Palestinian Authority. About to sign off here, but one of the things they found out is that the work permits that the people of Gaza and the West Bank, also the Palestinian Authority, get to come into Israel to work, right? Those were greatly expanded by a few thousand. And it comes to find out, according to reports, that many of the ones who did the murdering from Gaza were the ones who had those work permits. They had been working there in Israel. They knew those kibbutzes very well. They knew their families. It's almost an impossible situation, right? So for we as Christians, we go back to the scriptures. Pray for the peace of Jerusalem. May they prosper that love thee. It's an ugly and difficult situation, people. But for those people of goodwill, as Dr. King would say, they need to be prepared. There is no justice without truth. There is no justice without truth. If you got to lie and shuck and jive, and you're never going to find justice. Justice only comes as a pursuit of truth. Maria, come on, let's take me out in a second. So my voice lasted almost all the way. Hey, this has been the Institute for Black Solidarity with Israel Forum on Israel, Africa, and Black America. We are here each Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern. I was not joined by my amazing co-hosts, either Olga Mashwe Washington or Joshua Washington this time. They were otherwise not able to join. Shout out again to Lisa Daftari. Last week, she joined us. All episodes are on our YouTube channel on the live stream. Click on that. You'll see some excerpts of it as well. Again, I'm Dumisani Washington, the founder and CEO of the Institute for Black Solidarity with Israel. Go to ibsi.org. Find out more about our organization. Thank you so much for joining us, everyone. You all have a great week. Looking forward to seeing you next time.